what everybody loves? Exclusives. And people loved Titans Return so much, why don't we re-release a bunch of figures there and put them as exclusives in Walmart? So that's where the Retro Series Headmasters come in. These figures were meant to resemble the Japanese Headmaster cartoon figures, which also come in G1 packaging, which is pretty cool. And why do I have this figure? Well, honestly, I like the Titans Return Hardhead, and I just needed to get one for cheap to do a custom. So I'm reviewing this figure because he's eventually going to become a custom, and there's a lot to talk about this guy. So today we'll be looking at Retro Series Hardhead. And here we have Hardhead in his vehicle mode, and he looks very nice. Now, I mentioned the Retro Series in my intro, and what is that Retro Series? Well, Hasbro thought, hey, let's partner with Walmart and make a whole line of exclusives. Let's make them all repaint retools of the Titans Return figures, the main ones at least, and let's throw them in some retro-style boxes and sell them there. And I say this line has some mixed results. While I only really initially picked up the Decepticon ones, I bought this guy because he was cheap and because I was going to use this base mold as a custom. So this figure is a very nice tank, and the original Hardhead mold is actually one of the better Titans Returns figures. And yeah, that's about it to talk about the vehicle mode. It has very little to talk about of note, because at some point in the future, I do want to actually review the original Titans Return version, but let's go over some of the notable things of this. He has a very nice cannon that could tilt up and down, and he does come with a Headmaster named Duros, or however you pronounce it. And he's actually painted very well, and looks very nice and goes very good with everything. Well, I said very 3 times in a sentence. That's kind of awful. And he does come with another accessory, that being this gun, and it plugs into the top right here. And yeah, that's kind of awful weapon storage, but who really cares about the gun? And let's bring out the original, and when you bring out the original, you definitely see the differences with colors. So, this one, the new version, is definitely a more muted color scheme, with a lot more paint on it. And yeah, you could see much more red accents. These are black, and the Headmaster definitely has a similar amount of detail, but different color layout. So, if I had to recommend one vehicle mode, I would say the Walmart version. And I will say that these do share a similar look to the Takara versions. I'll go over that in robot mode. But yeah, that's about it. So let's go to the transformation of this figure. Oh hey, didn't see you there. I have a Discord server. You know, if you post a song request and it's copyright free and I use it in a video, you'll get a shout out. So I highly recommend you do that. The link is right up here and in the description. Go check it out. And here we have Retro Series Hardhead in his robot mode, and it's nice, but this is where the faults begin to come in, for me at least. I think this figure is a little bit too detailed. Now, some people might argue that that's heresy, that having a well-painted figure is awesome. But when you have too many details that don't really matter, in my opinion, I feel like this figure loses a bit of charm. Like, do we need these leg things? From what I heard, all these figures are meant to be accurate to the Headmaster's cartoon. So, with the original Titans Return figures, you're getting much more differently designed heads. Just look at the 2 Mind Wipes and Skull Smashers and Wolfwire. But then with this series, you're getting much more cartoon accurate to the Headmaster cartoon. So boxier aesthetics, all that stuff. And I gotta say, I prefer the old head sculpt of the original Hardhead from Titans Return, and here they are together. Now, I definitely will say I do like the color scheme of this figure. I do like the darker look to it, and definitely that goes with the tank aesthetic of, you know, this character. and Goros is definitely remolded with the new heads, and I'll go over that last. But I definitely like the look of, like, these... I definitely don't like the knee things and all that. And while I do like the red, it doesn't really add too much. I will say it adds more in vehicle mode, but in robot mode, it doesn't really matter. And it's not like I bought this figure just to do a comparison. I honestly bought this just to do a custom, and it was cheap. And I almost feel like, saving this figure, but I don't need it. So I'm just gonna use the parts that I need for the custom. Now, let's go over the main difference and why people are really going for this Headmaster, this new series. That being the head sculpts. So, like I mentioned, the head sculpts are very different. This one is based more on the G1 cartoon in America. This one is based on the G1 Headmasters cartoon. And this is the reason why this figure is maybe preferred by some people. Some people like Hardhead with a mouth because it maybe reminds them of the IDW comics or reminds them of the Headmaster cartoon. But I personally didn't really care. I more prefer the Titans Return head sculpt. I prefer the mouth guard because that's what I was used to with G1. And I'm no G1 purist, mind you. But I do like the colors of the new one. And what makes this good is the custom, I don't need to use this head. So I get to keep both heads. So if I really want to, I could have a Headmaster's style Hardhead, or I could have this G1 styled one. But what I am going to display on my shelf is a G1 styled Hardhead, personally speaking. I think this version is good, and we'll probably get like a micro review or something in the future, or maybe after like 2 years or something. But now let's go back to this figure and go to the figure's final things. The gun goes nicely in the hand, and it's the exact same gun, but molded in a darker green. So that's kind of it with that. And the back gun is removable and can go in the hands, like that. And to add on, Goros can actually sit inside of the gun, the tank gun, like this. So yeah, if you want to do that, then you got that option. But that's kind of it for this figure's qualities, goods and bads. This figure's definitely a good figure. But I'll go more into my final thoughts of this figure in the end of this review. But for now, let's go over the posability and then the size comparisons. For posability, the head could look left and right, can kind of T-pose, shoulders have a swivel, has a swivel here, elbow, a swivel at the wrist, nothing at the waist, can do the splits, has a swivel at the, calf? I don't know body structure. Can do a knee, and I guess you could make him do some kind of ankle posability with the transformation parts, but it's not really, doesn't really look too good. And for the Headmaster can look all the way around, can punch forward, can sit down, and has knees. And yeah, I never mentioned the articulation of any other Headmasters before, but let's just go into that. That's fine, But that's kind of it for the posability. Definitely weaker compared to more modern figures, but I'm definitely letting that pass because this is a figure from like 4 years ago. And yeah, so let's go to the size comparisons. For size comparisons, here's Retro Series Hardhead with Iron Tread, Blitzwing, Sound Barrier, Paleotrex, Dinobot, and Galaxy Upgraded Optimus Prime. And let's go over some other figures. Retro Series Skull Smasher, Retro Series Mind Wipe, and Retro Series Weird Wolf. And lastly, the original Titans Return Hardhead. And yeah, these figures are pretty much the same thing, but I mainly reviewed this because I think it looks nice, and I feel like I'd want to share my final thoughts with it before he becomes another figure. So overall, do I recommend this figure? Well, I feel like there are two things you need to think about when it comes to this figure. Do you like the Headmaster design or the American G1 design? And do you even have the original Hardhead figure? Because the original Hardhead figure is actually one of the best Titans Return molds in my opinion. And I definitely think you would be missing out if you missed out
originally on the figure. Now, do you need this figure if you have the original Titans Return figure? That depends on your choice, because this figure was initially like a Takara exclusive type thing, and that you needed to pay extra money for. And now this is the cost of a modern deluxe class figure, which is fine, I guess. I mean, this figure used to retail for $16. You're getting an extra paint job and a nice box, so I guess this is kind of worth it in the end. So, I'm personally satisfied with this figure, but he's going to become another figure in the future. And if you're curious on the progress of it, follow my Instagram. I usually post my customs and stuff like that. And I eventually want to start doing more custom showcase videos in the future. But for now, that's it for Hardhead. And he will be forever missed, but I will be keeping that head sculpt though. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys.